Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/slash JustNoMil. In today's episode, my MIL's true feelings have come out, and I'm incredibly hurt. Future MIL wants me to call her mum. JustNoMil is crazy about the baby. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. My MIL's true feelings have come out, and I'm incredibly hurt. My husband and I have been married for 12 years. I did not have a good relationship with my own mother. My mother is pushy, arrogant, demanding, and hated having a daughter she had to compete with for attention. This was all in her head. My MIL, for the past 12 years, had been everything I thought a good mom should be: supportive, helpful, never intrudes, very encouraging and loving in general. She treated my son from a previous marriage no different than her other grandchildren. She is married to a pastor of a church. She was widowed a few years ago, and he is her second husband. She is an incredible housekeeper and is a good cook. She has some idiosyncrasies, but nothing I would consider unbearable. I've always considered her a good friend to me, and I went to her often over the years when I needed a mother figure present. This is pertinent to the issue. My father has some mental health issues. He really started to decline about 10 years ago. He comes from a good, hardworking, middle-class family. My mother is white trash, and I'm not saying that out of bitterness or anything. Her side of the family is straight out of the trailer park. Any Pennsylvania stereotype you can think of applies here. She 100% trapped my dad. After 40 years of dealing with her and his own emotional issues, he kinda broke and is just existing now. I am not a daddy's girl. He and I have had our problems over the years, but I can look back and see how my mother turned him into the husk of a person he is now. I grew up in a home that was never maintained. Dad's mental health, and the only housework that got done was done by me and my siblings. My mother would trash the house because she's just a slob, and we would try to keep up on it, but it never mattered. It went right back to a pigsty the next day. My mother hated working and would quit a job as soon as my dad was emotionally healthy enough to go back to work after his mental health declines, so I grew up in a very financially unstable home. I was not taught how to keep house properly. I just did what I could as a kid and accepted my surroundings. My husband is not on good terms with my parents. He hasn't spoken to my mother in 7 years. He deals with my dad when he has to. I have openly talked to my MIL about my upbringing, shared the grievances I've endured with my own mother, and she always comforted me, always told me it wasn't my fault for how my mother was towards me. She was indignant for me when I would tell her how much my mother hurt me growing up. She was very supportive of me while I was working through the deep emotional scarring and unpacking all the hang-ups and issues my mother caused. My husband and I have unloaded irritation and frustration with my mother to my MIL. Over the summer, my husband and I went through some difficulties. I lost my job, finances were tight, I went into a slump. It was hard, but we pulled through. During this time I did let the housework go. Remember, I'm not the best housekeeper in the world to begin with, but the house was at least tidied, just very lived in. My husband does have his chores and he did complete them, but I was seriously lagging behind, and when he would try to help I would chase him off out of guilt, and then it wouldn't get done anyway. He must have felt frustrated, and he told his mother how he was trying to help me, but I wasn't willing. He was worried. He didn't know what was wrong with me because I wouldn't tell him. He was stressed about the income issue and was getting nervous. He asked her if she would come over to visit me. He knew I went to her often for issues in the past and thought it would make me feel better. I know all of this because while driving, he asked me to text his mom from his phone, mine was dead, and ask her if she was home. We were out running errands and he had something he wanted to drop off. I opened his phone and saw a text notification from her. I went into his messages to text her and I was stunned. This was the day after he sent her the messages about his concern for me. She didn't reply until about 5 minutes before I opened his phone. I'm sick over this. Her reply was, well, you know her parents. Our jersey is cut from a different cloth, and the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I'll continue to be kind to her and pray for her because it's the Christian thing to do, but I don't think I can take much more drama. When is the last time she's been to church? My husband asked me what was wrong. I handed him his phone and he was appalled. He told me he had no idea where that comment came from. She never said anything negative about me before, and he was shocked. We both knew what she was implying by cut from a different cloth. She was calling me white trash like my mother. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. She was calling me mentally unstable like my father. I was earning 20% more than my husband when I lost my job. I have a good education. I stopped going to church years ago because my mother used religion to control me, and I don't practice anything now. My MIL is aware of this and never commented before, said she understood. She never commented on the condition of the house, but I realized she hadn't been over to visit for a while. I feel exposed, that my 12-year relationship with my MIL was all a lie. My husband reassured me he would talk to her. I told him not to bother. Honestly, I don't think I can handle knowing what else she thinks of me. I told him I didn't want to see her anymore. He said he understands. He hasn't spoken to her or seen her since. I got back to work. My marriage is fine. The truth of my MIL's feelings towards me eats at me though. She was one of the only people I ever felt safe talking to. Now I feel ashamed of everything I've told her. I know you've received many replies, but I just wanted to add one more bit of perspective. When you saw that unkind text, you didn't learn one single thing about yourself. You are the same kind, loving, trusting, supportive person you've always been. That's why your husband fell so hard for you, smiley face. You have, however, learned something about your MIL. If you told her that you read the text, she should be the one mortified and embarrassed. She should be ashamed of her bigotry and ugliness and wondering how in the world she will ever face you again. If you never tell her, be guarded in your dealing with her as you would any ugly person in the world. Protect any children that may be around from the cancer that is her world outlook. I'm sorry this happened to you, OP. You didn't deserve it, so have no need to own it. This is her own poison she chooses to swallow. I feel for you so much. It is like a literal slap in the face. Struggling does not make you less than anyone else. You have gone through a lot. Don't let this two-faced liar make you feel bad about yourself. I think it's better to live life honestly, instead of constantly putting on a persona. Your husband isn't going to discuss you with her anymore, is he? I'm so sorry, you thought you had an ally and she was just a hypocrite. To quote others, there's no hate like Christian love. She fooled you. That's not your fault. These people are very, very good at what they do, pretending to be someone they aren't. You only fell for it because she is that good at faking it. That's not on you. I'm happy to hear you're so supportive of you. For me, a message like that is the end of the relationship with her. Period. Oh honey, I can feel your pain. I'm so sorry. If you listen to audiobooks, keeping house while drowning is a powerful, comforting reminder that care tasks are morally neutral. You are not a failure if you can't keep up with laundry or dishes or any other household task. It's really a powerful, powerful book. I can't say enough good things about it. Helped me with some deep trauma and shame that came in many ways from one of children's paternal family members over several years. Please find a therapist, and a good one. Your MIL is an awful person. To feign care, affection, and understanding to gather info or have a sense of control over someone is pathological. You are 100% right to steer clear of her. Christian? What a laugh, she uses that too as her sheep's clothing. I am so sorry you had to go through that. A little petty, but Luke 6 verse 45 and Proverbs 13 verse 3 talking about wicked tongues. Galatians 6 verse 2, Hebrews 13 verse 16, Matthew 5 verse 42, and Romans 12 verse 13 is about helping people. Since she seems to be sitting on a high horse over her perceived betterness than you about going to church, I'd have your husband use the scriptures back. Going to church makes you a Christian like walking in a garage makes you a mechanic. There's no love like Christian love, am I right? Her response was the mask slipping. I have found as the daughter of a minister that this is the majority of churchgoers. They pretend to be kind and loving, but they're sitting there judging you at your most vulnerable moments, and when it comes down to it, they'll use your trauma against you. I really have no words. I offer you a virtual hug and warm thoughts. Seriously, this is not a tiny thing. She betrayed you and has basically admitted she is not a Christian. Why else those words / those comments? Please know this says everything about her and nothing about you. No hate quite like Christian love. This honestly makes my chest hurt for OP. I know this pain all too well. OP, keep the no contact. She doesn't deserve any more of your time. Future MIL wants me to call her mom. So my future MIL wants me to call her mom. For context, my mom died over 10 years ago, and I can't even say the word without it bringing tears to my eyes. I deal with the bereavement of my mom every day. I have been using the Gujarati word for MIL, but she told me today she doesn't like it. She takes me as her daughter, etc., so would like it if I call her mom. For further information, she wasn't the best towards me in the beginning and created a lot of problems as she was opposed to our relationship. I don't feel comfortable calling her mom, and I don't feel like I should be pressured either. I compromised with the MIL word as I thought that shows respect and is the correct term to use. Her other DIL calls her mom. I don't ever want to call anyone else that word. I have one mom and that is it. This is really stressful. I've told my partner and he will explain to his mom, albeit already doing this previously. It almost feels like she wants to replace my mom. No thank you. I'm not comfortable with that. Then walk away. I think we often make the mistake of explaining more to people who push boundaries like this, thinking it will help them understand our discomfort. However, all it does is give them something to argue with and helps along their delusion that your no is negotiable. Instead of trying to explain, keep it simple. I'm not comfortable with that. If she asks why, turn the question back on her. Why do you ask? But, importantly, do not engage beyond those responses. Whatever her reason for asking, simply reply with I see and then change the subject. The less you say to explain why, the less she can twist your words around when she complains about you being disrespectful. She can complain about it as much as she wants, but that doesn't mean anybody else cares or thinks she's being reasonable. She can be called by her name just like everybody else. Close relationships can't be demanded or forced, they have to be grown. She wants to cement authority over you. Not so much replace your mom as displace your mom. Nope, nope, nope. You stick to your guns. I had a mom and now she's not here. I can't call you mom. You're not my mom. Please stop asking me to do it. I could never call anyone else mom. That name is reserved for my late mother, who I love and miss every single day. If she presses, this isn't up for discussion. And change the subject, walk away, or hang up. Perfect. There's no reason why OP can't tell FMIL this herself, but if she's more comfortable with her husband talking to her, then that's better. It's perfectly fine to say MIL, I am not comfortable calling you mom. I miss my own so much and I just cannot call anyone else that. I'm sure you can understand how that could be difficult for anyone who has lost a parent. Let's find something else that I can call you. That's the polite first salvo and say it in full view of many family members. Then if she keeps it up, you need to be more blunt. I've told you I'm not comfortable with that. I'll call you Mrs. XYZ. She complains, I've told you why I cannot call you mom. You are my mother-in-law, I have a mom and she's the only one I will call mom. You need to drop it. No, I will not call you mom. Get up and leave after every interaction. And just keep calling her Mrs. XYZ. Excellent choices to shut her down. My MIL asked me to call her mom. I thought she was being nice, but no, it was a power move. I regret calling her mom immensely. It put her above me and allowed her to be the matriarch, and I do not recommend ever allowing your MIL to consider you a child and not her equal. I just say, it means a lot for you to consider me your daughter, and I'm very happy we have grown that close. I do see you that way, but my mother passing away is something that I'm never going to be able to get over. Because she has passed, I don't feel right calling anyone else that. It's like she's being replaced, even though I know you aren't trying to do that. It's not personal, and I appreciate how kind and understanding you are in not pushing me into something I'm just not comfortable or going to do. Our relationship is so special in its own way, and I want to find a nickname that's just between you and I, because you're like my third parent and there's no one else close to me like you, and I want it to be special for just you and I. Fluff up her ego a little bit whilst assertively being I ain't doing that. Just tell her you will not be calling her mom, so if she wants some other name, she should let you know, otherwise just call her by her given name. You have one mom and it is not her. End of story. JustNoMil is crazy about the baby. Before I got pregnant with my son, I enjoyed many years of a wonderful relationship with my grandmother-in-law, JustNoMil. She was a very sweet, loving woman who embraced me like a granddaughter. I did not grow up with grandparents, so I was thrilled. But as soon as I got pregnant, everything changed. Suddenly, nothing I ever did was good enough. She calls the rest of the family to complain about me all the time. It started off as her talking to the rest of the family behind my back to accuse me of starving myself on purpose to avoid getting fat during the pregnancy when I had severe morning sickness and couldn't keep any food down. Then she was always making these snide remarks about my pregnancy and my parenting. It made me so uncomfortable how she would act so nice to my face when I knew she was talking badly about me behind my back. I naively thought she would calm down after the birth. After Elo was born, she was so offended that she was never invited to babysit. She felt it was all my fault and that I was being unreasonable for not trusting her. DH and I had agreed prior to the birth she would never babysit him or otherwise be around him unsupervised due to safety concerns. It was actually DH's idea, but she will never believe that. She is very old and her mobility is not the best, so we have concerns about her potentially falling or dropping him. DH would never tell her directly that she could not babysit. He just made excuses about why other people would babysit instead until we moved to a new house farther away from her and she stopped asking. DH and I take the baby to visit JustNoMil every weekend, or at least every other weekend. We live close to DH's hometown, so she sees him more often than anyone on my side of the family does. She constantly complains about not getting enough invitations to visit. In her mind, I am single-handedly depriving her of time with her great-grandchild. I'm convinced we could see her every day and she still wouldn't think it's enough. The point when I reached my wit's end was when we planned a family lunch a couple of weeks ago. We planned a lunch with the in-laws because we all wanted to try a certain type of Asian cuisine that we don't get to have very often. JustNoMil was not invited because we all knew she would not like the type of food we were eating, and the group was already very large for a restaurant and we couldn't reasonably add any more people without expecting a long wait for a table. JustNoMil somehow found out about the lunch plans and completely lost it. She called several family members crying about what a horrible person MIL and I am for purposely excluding her and how I must hate her for doing this. Note, MIL had nothing to do with making the plans. JustNoMil just doesn't get along with her either, and tends to blame everything on her. The rest of the family asked me to please invite her just to keep the peace. So DH called her and she and JustNoMil were invited to join us at home after lunch. The situation came up again yesterday when I talked to DH about getting family portraits done for Elo's first Christmas. DH thinks we should include her in the photos. He said that we don't have to invite her if I don't want to, but that we need to prepare ourselves for another one of her tantrums if we don't. DH never addresses her behavior or the snide remarks because she always plays nice when he's in the room. Everyone, even my family, keeps telling me that she's an old woman and I just need to be patient with her because we don't know how much time she has left. But I don't like this entitled attitude she has that she needs to be involved in everything in our lives, and I especially don't like feeling manipulated into doing things I don't want to do. I just think giving into her meltdowns all the time just reinforces the behavior when we should be setting boundaries. Am I being unreasonable? Age is not an excuse for rude, petty, and mean behavior. If she wants a relationship with the baby, she has to treat both parents with respect and not talk smack. That needs to be made clear to her, and so needs to back you up on this. Not just to JustNoMil, but also to the extended family who seem to be okay with her treating you like an incubator. You should be spending equal time with your side of the family. Even every other weekend is way too much. She is getting to feel entitled. She should not be rewarded for her awful behavior, or why would she ever change? I don't ever subscribe to the excuse that you don't know how much time someone has left. How much time do you have left? Or we simply don't know. We could no longer be here tomorrow. JustNoMil could outlive you all. You simply do not know. You're DH and you need therapy and need to work on boundaries. I think she has earned a long time out for now until you've had a break from her. You are spending too much time with JustNoMil. So much so she now feels entitled to all your time. JustNoMil demands more and more because your husband gives in. The fact your husband won't say anything to her because she doesn't say shitty things in front of him is bullshit. T, by the way. Your husband is enabling his grandmother. He cares more about hurting her feelings than worrying about how his wife or child feels. That's a problem. You need to sit down with your husband and let him know how you feel about his grandmother and her demands of your time. How you have family too and should be able to visit them as well. That you do not want to be visiting JustNoMil every weekend or even every other weekend. She has become way too entitled to your weekends and time. This is your family and life. And you need to have breathing room from her. Let him know everything she says and does. And tell him he needs to stop leaving you alone with her. If he cannot and will not stay in the room the entire time, then there will be no visits at all. Because as soon as he leaves, she starts her shit. And when she does start her sh*t, you need to call it out loud. Yell to husband JustNoMil saying it again. Then pack up and leave. Restrict access to you and LO. First off, every 1 to 2 weeks for visiting sounds like a lot. You both have other family and friends and you need time as just a family of 3 also. She is acting super entitled and you inviting her last time after she threw a fit just reinforced that she can get whatever she wants if she just makes a fuss. Why would you having family portraits involve DH's grandparents? Unless everyone in both your families are gonna be in the pictures. It should just be your immediate family, you, DH and LO. Anything else can be taken with a camera and enlarged and printed for the grandparents and great-grandparents. It sounds like your husband is trying to not rock the boat and that is gonna build resentment in you eventually. Best wishes to you, and hopefully when anyone doesn't get their way, it will get easier to ignore the drama. Not overreacting. Being old as balls is such a tired excuse. Just let her do whatever she wants. BC, she's elderly and could die at any time? I'd expect the opposite. She is older and should know much better. The only preparation you need to do for her tantrum is to mute/block her avenues of contact and keep living your lives. Let her be mad, let her get over it herself or not. It's not your responsibility to brace yourselves for her outbursts. I'd like to see if all the people suggesting this to Opie would take their own advice and let the poor little old dying lady trample on them. It smacks of don't rock the boat, honestly. Don't ever reward bad behavior. If you aren't seeing your bestest person isn't the world, but often you shouldn't be seeing that person that often. You get what I'm saying? In regards to she old and be nice, unfortunately old people are like worse than toddlers. They need to be re-taught boundaries. Her emotions aren't your responsibility. If she gets upset at not seeing your baby every single day, who cares? She can cause all the fuss she wants, that doesn't mean you have to disrupt your family life to appease her. She is not very important in the wider scheme of things. Your most important people are your spouse and your child. Everyone else is outside that circle. And when the family calls to pressure you to appease her, tell them unfortunately, we don't always get what we want in life. It's sad that MIL gets so emotional about not having her way. It's like raising a toddler, you can't give in to their every whim. They have to learn how to receive an answer they don't want. She isn't a member of your immediate family. She doesn't need to be in pictures of your immediate family. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.